Say hello out there. Hello, everybody. Hey, everybody. It's Robert Earl out here at the Eco Ranch in Far West Texas with Cascade the Wonder Dog, as usual. But if you followed any of my videos, you go, well, wait a minute, he's out of uniform. Yeah, I'm wearing short sleeves today. And even the horse is surprised at that. But I'm wearing short sleeves for a good reason, and the wind is coming up and down, so I have no way of knowing when I'm doing this whether it's affecting the microphone. So I apologize in advance. Don't comment about the wind noise if it's there. I already know. Believe me, I'm editing this thing. But I'm in short sleeves because today, as the video said, I'm going to show you how to process a chicken. Now, I've hesitated for 3 years on doing this because there's like 150 videos on how to process chickens, how to process goats, pigs, everything. So I've held off on it, but I thought I'd go ahead and do this today. So right off the bat, he's gone. If you've come here to learn how to process a chicken and how to pluck a chicken, we're not plucking a chicken. Debbie doesn't really like chicken skin, and I don't like the extra work. So we skin the chicken. So if you want to learn how to pluck one, I do pluck them occasionally, but not when I'm doing a volume like I am today. So plucking's out. I'm going to show you an easy, quick way to get the meat that you want, and I might get into a little bit of how we cook them as I go along. But primarily we're going to show you how I process a chicken. Now, I have to tell you, and this may be something that's just unique to me because I see a lot of guys do these videos and they don't have any problems at all with killing stuff. Well, I've got two things I find very unpleasant out here. One is to dig and screen the sand to do my mortar and my concrete. Well, that's because I'm 64 years old and I'm tired. I don't like doing that. But the other thing, and maybe you would have the same problem too, is the actual act of killing something, taking away its life. That bothers me. It's bothered me forever. That's why I don't hunt for sport. I don't think it's sporty to take an animal's life in a violent fashion, and I don't think it's fun. I think it's something that's necessary if you have to eat meat. And if you are a meat eater, which we almost all are, then it's a good thing to know where your food comes from. It's a good thing to reconnect back to your food source. Now out here we raise our chickens. Right now they're free ranging. That's just because I haven't had the money and the time to finish their pen, to pen them in. So they free range. I've purposely raised about 100 birds this year, and ducks and chickens, and I've got about 80, 85, somewhere in that neighborhood. It might end up to be 70, who knows, that do have to go. And the majority of them, as you can tell if you've followed any of my videos, have been roosters. And so we're going to start with the oldest, nastiest, loudest roosters and work our way down as we go for the next 2 days. So, I've got my table all set up. This table cants a little bit to the front. You can see the bathtub there. That's so that any water I use goes into the bathtub. I've got it piped into my gray water. Now there'll be blood mixed in it and a little bit of gore. I've got a filter to get the gore out with. But my water cants down there. That does two things. It saves my gray water because we are in the desert and all of our water comes off of rain catchment. The other thing is it saves my feet and legs from getting wet. I have my knives and my knife sharpener. You only need 3 knives for this job. You do need a cleaver to remove the head, the feet, and I throw away the wing tips, that little piece of wing that nobody ever eats anyway. You need a boning knife and you need a chef's knife. And again, you'll see what I do with that. I have some various pots hanging around here. This particular pot right here is going to be for gizzards, lungs, hearts, and livers. We don't eat those, but the dogs do, so I process that into dog food. Over here, I believe just out of camera range is my cooler. Cooler's got ice in it, and it also has a separate little container. Now that little container is what I take the boning knife and I get the little pieces of meat that you ordinarily miss out of that. I will show you that as we go. So one more thing, because the chicken's free range, it's hard as hell to catch them. It really is, and they don't go into a pen at night, a coop where we close the door and then we can just walk in the coop. They're out, they roost everywhere, and so we have to get them somehow. Now, the last time I did this was over a year ago, and I had a long stick. And I'd sneak up to the one I wanted, and I'd swing that stick and conk him in the head and knock him out. Well, one ducked one time, and I hit one of my best egg layers, and of course I had to process her. Plus, running them around, it really upsets the chickens and releases adrenaline into their body, and adrenaline, and there's something else. Somebody comment on what else that is. But the other thing that it releases is kind of, you don't taste it, but it's not really good in the meat. So the way I'm going to do it today is I did buy a pellet gun, just a cheap, inexpensive pellet gun, and I'm just going to find the rooster I need. I'm going to shoot him in the head. He'll be dead, and that'll be the end of that. And then when I work my way down to the hens, if we can't just pick them up, we'll shoot them in the head too. I'm going to spare you all of that, and I'm going to spare you removing the head as well. Now, one of the big reasons for raising your own poultry, your own cows or steers, I know they're steers, I call them cows just because I'm a city boy, pigs, sheep, your own meat, is you know what you're doing, you know what you're getting in. It's just like a computer, garbage in, garbage out. You put garbage into the animal, you get garbage out of the animal. Also, at the end process, when it's time to process and kill that animal, I've been inside the chicken business. I spent a long time in there learning and teaching myself chickens. And I've hesitated on saying a lot about it, but what they do a lot of times is you're getting a live bird that they're hanging up by the feet, alive. They're hanging that bird up by the feet, and he's running down an assembly line, and in that assembly line there's two spinning blades about that far apart. And those blades catch him right here on either side of the, I guess it's the jugular vein or the carotid artery. Cuts them, and they bleed out. Now that's also a way a lot of people kill their birds, and I'll explain about that in a moment. The thing is, the bird is terrorized. First of all, he's been raised in unhealthy conditions to begin with, for the most part. Second of all, he's been in this crate overnight, because we do ship them overnight, because the heat will kill them. Been in that crate overnight, they're terrorized. Now some stranger grabs them by the feet and hangs them up, and they're just absolutely terrorized right to the end and releases all those chemicals into the body that you don't really want. We save that by just either shooting them in the head, or if they're a pet, not a pet, but a chicken that's gentle to us, we pick them up and stroke them and talk to them gently, and it's all over in just a momentary with me with a whack in the head or in the neck with the cleaver. Now, yes, I use the cleaver and I remove the whole head for a reason. I'm going to shoot them in the head for a reason. Because as long as that heart is beating, it's pumping the blood out of the body, which means you don't have to do any soaking in salt water or just regular brine soaking or in regular water. That heart is beating, you remove the head, it pumps the blood all out, and you don't have to bleed the animal. I do the same thing when I kill pigs, and the same thing when I do the sheep. I make sure I shoot them in the head, I immediately get and cut those jugular veins, let them and pick them up as best I can and bleed them out. That way you don't have to worry about removing the pooled up blood in the body, which is most of the reason why you have to soak a wild game. Now that handles the stress factor, but there's also other factors. First of all, the chickens are raised, and we've all seen the horrible conditions that they're raised in. Horrible conditions, and yes, they are bad. But the thing is, there's 350 million Americans that have to be fed. There's 1.5 billion Chinese that have to be fed. If you can come up with a much better way and keep the costs down, you will be a multimillionaire. But we really, I mean, this is the way it is to feed all these people, unless we all move into what Debbie and I are doing here, which is individual infrastructure, individual livestock and gardening. But we've seen the conditions, we know the conditions. The conditions breed disease, so they need antibiotics. The conditions breed, the conditions are for profit. So they add growth hormones, or hormones in general to them. And those hormones, I mean, take your pick of whatever website to tell you all the bad things in there from the hormones. So you've got antibiotics, hormones, and you want them to grow real fast, because the faster they grow, the lower that conversion rate is, which is somewhere in the neighborhood, believe it or not, of 1.5 pounds of feed in for 1 pound of commercial chicken. Steroids. Steroids do it. I'm actually closer out here with these wild birds to 4 to 1. Maybe. I might be at 3 to 1, but if I'm at 3 to 1, it's because the rest of it goes towards what they forage out here. We make sure they forage an awful lot of insects. We have the maggot traps, and they work wonderfully. Plus, they get everything that we don't eat. So, that's what you have in your commercial animal, your commercial chickens. But also, you have that insidious thing that you see on all of them that says 20% broth added. So if it's 69 cents a pound, which I know is cheap, but if it's 69 cents a pound, call it 70 cents a pound, you're adding 20% broth to it. 20% of that is 14 cents, so it's 84 cents a pound. You're buying water. Worse, you're buying MSG. Worse, you're buying a cheap, low-grade salt water. Now, that 20% broth added is the reason why we can sit down, and I'm one that's guilty of this. I can sit down and eat a whole commercial chicken. But I promise you that if I eat just the breast, both halves of the breast off of my chicken, I'm full. If I eat one leg and thigh, I'm full of my chickens because there is no 20% broth added. The meat is dense, the meat is better for you, the meat fills you up. So those are your advantages those are some of the reasons not to go with commercial chicken and some of the advantages. Now the disadvantage, of course, is the fact that we have to kill and clean them. Now why don't we finally, after all of that, get to the cleaning of the chicken. Okay, so like the introduction said, this can get graphic, so here comes the graphic part. Sorry. Of course, he's got nerves making him twitch right now. Okay, so here's our first chicken. This is the one we're going to show you. This is a white chicken. It's a Leghorn cross. No, Reuben, this is not Eric. This is one of Eric's children. But it is a cross. This is a young rooster from this year. And we're going to, this is the one I'm going to demonstrate on for you. Okay, so my ugly face is out of the picture, but the chicken's in the picture. And I'm all alone when it comes to filming these, so I can't get you very close. Now, the way I cut the heads off of the animal, whether they're alive or dead, if they're alive, they're very calm, and you've got their feet tied to a string of some sort. I'm using baling wire here because these guys are dead when I get them here. Otherwise, I would use just the slip knot here because it doesn't really hurt the chicken. I know that sounds funny, but I don't want to hurt them until I kill them. I want them to just die. Stretch out the neck. They're very calm. You put your blade on the neck, gently, and just like that, the head is gone and they're dead. They're going to bleed. That's why they fall into the bathtub. So the first step in cleaning your chicken, at least for me, is to remove the feet. Now the feet go. Some people, especially Asians, will take the feet and they'll cook with them, and I've done that. It's okay, I don't particularly care for it. This wing segment, in all of my life, I've never eaten any meat off of this wing segment. Why clean it? Now, you're left with the bird that has to be skinned. Remember, I said I'm skinning. I'm not plucking. So, in terms of skinning, I take the boning knife. I use this knife very rarely for the cleaning of the chickens. It's mainly the boning knife, and I do keep it sharp. You're going to pick up a little skin by pinching it right near where the breastbone ends, near the tail or the anus of the animal. Now, you're going to pick it up. You're going to put the knife just under the skin, and you like always when you're filming, nothing cooperates. Put it just under the skin, and you're literally going to slide it up along what they call the keel bone. That's that little bone right here that I just exposed. Slide it up under the keel bone, and just bring it all the way out. Now at this point, and right there I just broke the crop of the bird. That's okay, the crop's not going to foul the meat. Then I just simply take, sometimes, especially with the older roosters, this is a young rooster, this is only 5, maybe 6 months old. Sometimes you have to actually take the knife and pretty much skin the bird. But you just, you're putting your thumb through, if you can. If you can't, then you punch a hole through with the knife, and you just pull and remove the skin, feathers, and all. Come around here. Notice I'm zipping with my thumb and with my fingers. Come around here, and this is hard. This is a difficult thing to pull, and you know, ladies, I know some of you are extremely strong and can do almost anything a man can do. I still say it's going to be hard for you. But you certainly can do it. That's one side, and you notice I have to switch sides. I'm pulling, and I notice it's a little hard to pull. Back over here to the leg. Slide that knife along just to get it started. Now this one I didn't have to make a little slit in. Pull the skin and feathers right off. Zip up underneath the backbone. Now I've got actually all the way through. Now they will make noises like that because they're what passes for a voice box is deep in the neck. I cut through the skin there because this didn't want to come out very easily. That happens with roosters, folks. The roosters, especially a free-range bird anyway, but the roosters particularly their skin holds to their body real tight. Probably fast forwarded a little bit there, and now I'm left with a skinned bird, except this right here. Now sometimes you can pull this, sometimes you can pull the feathers loose, other times you have to start cutting. Now, this is your wing. Start by cutting and then the skin pulls right off. Let's try the other side. Nope. Now we get into this knife. And you can cut it like that. It's perfectly all right. Not a problem in the world. Now, still got a mess down here, but that's all right. We've pretty much got it cleaned up. Now let's go after the inside. Actually, let's go after the inside. Now you take, this is what they call the keel bone at Kentucky Fried Chicken. You're going to take the point of the knife and go right in here, right along where the meat and the membrane there meets. You see? Both sides. Meat and the membrane. Be careful on this side because you can hit the liver and hit the bile duct on the liver. You don't want that. Hit the bile duct, the bile sac, excuse me, on the liver. Okay, now if you pull gently enough, what you're going to do is you're going to get the guts, gizzard, etc. out all in one piece. Again, my mother used to tell a story about my father and her mother always fighting over eating the tail of the chicken. In my entire life, again, I have never eaten the tail of a chicken. If I don't eat it, why go to the trouble of plucking and cleaning it? So I've just cut the duct in the back and all that out. Now what I'm left with here is, I've got in my hand right here, I have the gizzard. Let's take the gizzard off the intestine. Now I kind of chewed up the liver a bit here, but it's for the dogs anyway. That little bit of liver there, and I've messed up the liver too bad there, but that's the part with the bile sac attached. That is the bile sac. You never on any animal want to break that. Now again, you're going to trim. I ordinarily wouldn't do this right now, but I'm going to show you. Except I don't have my water handy, and I need the water at this point. You cut your gizzard open, and there's what he was processing. We're going to wash the gizzard out. Now there's nothing nasty in there. Nothing really nasty in there. It's just that you've got the half digested grains that he's been eating. Now, our humidity out here is very, very low, so what we run into a lot is the meat will try to dry out, so you do have to always kind of hit it. Now, this being a rooster, you've got testicles, guys. All of a sudden, I see guys everywhere grabbing their crotch. Testicles. In Japan, rooster testicles are cooked yakitori. In a yakitori, which is skewered and roasted over a real hot charcoal grill. They love them, they're delicious. I don't eat internal organs, but my dogs don't seem to have an issue with that. Going back up in here, you have the heart. And you have an organ that we don't eat in America, but it is used quite a bit all around the world. Most notably for most people is going to be the Scottish use this. And the Scottish use it to make haggis. And of course that is the lungs of the animal. Now the lungs are they're perfectly good meat. I studied on them. And I got that one out in one piece. This one I kind of chopped up a little bit. Blood in there. Good source of iron in that for the animal. And it's pretty much cleaned except for removing the crop. Now removing the crop, I come down here, there's just a thin membrane holding it. Now if I hadn't have busted this crop, I would have come along here and cut like that and just pulled it out. At that point what I do with the crop is I take it and empty it on the ground because these chickens are all around me looking for a free meal. Now the neck, typically what I'll do is I'll chop the neck off like this. Now we're making broth out of the carcass here, so I'm not going to cut the neck off because the neck is a good source of flavor. Thank you. Okay, now always keep your table clean. You'll notice that this is a plywood table. Plywood has many pores in it, as does all wood, and so it can get bacteria and get icky. Before I did this table, before I started working today, I washed the table off carefully, scrubbed it, and then put some bleach on it. Now you're going to rinse your carcass. Now what you have here is you have a completely skinned carcass that you can take. Oh, you might want to, if you cut the neck back, but you have a skinned carcass. You can take that and you can roast it like you would a typical roast chicken, which is fine. Or you can do a myriad of things. I love that word, a myriad of things. It just means many, many things, but it makes you sound more intelligent. So, everybody has their own way of doing things. Now, I've always treated chicken a little differently than, say, yard bird. And, you fry it up. I had a guy tell me one time, he said, well, I'd like to buy some of your chickens. And I said, well, that's fine. But if you want to buy my chicken, they're going to be $3 a pound. He goes, $3 a pound? Man, all I'm going to do is slather it with barbecue sauce, some salt, put it on the grill and cook it. I don't need to pay that much. I can get them at the store for 69 cents a pound. Yes, and quite honestly, the process you just described to me, you can also take horse manure and deep fry it or barbecue it the same way, and it's going to taste just the same as that chicken because you've ruined all the flavor. But here we have a piece of meat that has a lot of flavor in it, and we have to divide it up. I've said before that I can get anywhere from 3 to 5 meals off of a chicken. This chicken, let's see what we've got for meals. Let me cut him up the way I would cut him up. And again, this is something to show you, because if you buy boneless chicken breasts in the store, what are they? $2.99 a pound and up. If you're like in New York City or Los Angeles, I guess they're more than that. Let me show you how to make a boneless chicken breast and how to divide this chicken up. Because, guys, if you haven't done it, it's very easy. And even if you've got a store-bought chicken, you don't want to go to all this trouble, fine. You've got a store-bought chicken. So let's start with the breast. I start with the breast because I've got the wings and legs here that are balancing the carcass. This is the keel bone, and if you've ever filleted a fish, what we're doing is the same thing. You're going to go right along that keel bone. Now the knife is turned at an angle like that, going in. And you go right along that keel bone, and then it's snicking. Now my Uncle Homer taught me that word. I have never heard anybody else use it but Homer. Yeah, he agrees. And you just go along and you snick the meat right next to the carcass, all the way down, like so. Now let's set this one aside and let's get the other one right now real quick. Again, I'm taking my finger here and my thumb here and I'm pulling gently. That's another advantage of turning a knife like this. If the knife was turned like this and you slipped, especially with my knife, which is sharp as a razor, you've just opened yourself up horribly. So we're going to snick along that bone like so. Snick, snick, snick. You can see it coming away. Snick, snick, down. Now, there's a piece of meat on the breast that a lot of you folks probably have always wondered, what do I do with that? And that is this little wah 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 right here, flappy thing. That's the tenderloin. Much of the time it'll pull right off. Sometimes it's attached a little strong, so you can cut. You have to cut it. There it pulls right off. That's a separate thing. Oh, what, 5 or 6 of those? Make a nice meal for you. Remember, this is denser than store-bought chicken. So I've got the tenderloins and I've got 2 boneless breasts right there. Did not cost me $3.99 a pound. Now they go in my cooler. You can't see the cooler, but the cooler has ice in it and that ice will keep it cool. Now, you're left with the wishbone here, which has quite a bit of meat on it, and I kind of like to take that wishbone, and I don't do hot wings with these wings because for the most part the wings are quite tough. You should not ever hit the chef's knife like that. But I've got all that meat there. Well, that's my hot wings because I'm not going to use these for hot wings. That's my hot wing. Debbie doesn't like real spicy stuff, so I don't make hot wings for both for us. Now, we're at the point where we're going to remove the wings. I like to switch knives here. This is the head of the chicken. This is the butt of the chicken. I came right down here and cut the flesh there. Now I can see the joint. There's the joint right there. See that? You can see the joint. You just go into the joint, cut right through it. There's my wing. Now, let's do the other one. Same way. Starting from the rear, cut the flesh. And you want to try to get some meat off of that breast on it. So, this guy here being so young, I can probably make hot wings out of him. But typically, my older roosters and older hens, you don't want that because it's going to be chewy as hell. But I use this. I use the wings for fricassee. I'll actually coat them with flour, pan fry them, and make a fricassee. Look it up in your cookbooks. Make your fricassee out of the wings. You do have to pick through the bones, but the meat comes off real tender, and you're utilizing this that you otherwise wouldn't be able to eat because I still have good teeth, even though I'm an old man, and it really is hard on me to gnaw on this. So anyway, let's put these away. What do we got left? Well, we've got the leg-thigh combination. I like to take that off all at once. And again, I'm going down here. This is the neck, this is the butt. I'm going down here. I try to cut a little if I have to break, break the bond. And the joint is right there. There's a joint, and I've cut. Now let's leave that aside. Go over to the other side here. See, it's kind of sticky a little bit there, so I come up here. I'm pressing with the knife this way hard. Just come down. Now I can take and pop. See, that bone just jumped out at me. And I come right down here like that. Now there we are. You can leave it like this, and you got a leg-thigh combination. Now I think with these chickens I'm doing now, I'm going to do the leg-thigh combination for Debbie and I, because otherwise we have to eat 2 legs each. If I eat the leg and thigh, we can eat 1 each here. So I'm going to leave this whole, and we will just prepare it, whether it's a fricassee, whether it's a curry, whether it's fried or not. Now, I also, and I'm going to do this one just to show you, we're going to separate the thigh from the leg anyway. And I cut down. Now I can see that joint. You don't want to try to break it too hard, because what you do is you tear the meat, but you do want to see where it wants to separate. So there I've separated. And I'm showing you this for a reason that I didn't think I would have, that I didn't think of initially. Okay, so that's okay. By the way, you've probably already noticed that I'm cutting out a lot of the extraneous stuff in this. Trying to make it as short as possible. I'm having trouble finding that bone. Don't jack with it. Just take your cleaver and your rubber mallet. Now, there's the legs. Nothing wrong with the legs in the cooler. But what I wanted to show you, how many times have you gone to the store and for $1.99 a pound? That's right, $1.99 is a lot of money. Or more. Boneless chicken thighs. Yay, boneless chicken thighs. The hell with that. Don't pay that money. I'm cutting alongside this bone at an angle. You can see the knife's at an angle. Now, I've grabbed the bone that I've separated right here, and my thumb is right here. So I'm taking the knife along my thumb, gently so I don't accidentally poke my finger here. I've just separated the bone on that side, and I'm just kind of pulling a little bit. And there you go. Now, you have a boneless chicken thigh. Take that and cut these pieces off here, these little loose pieces, like so. Not a loose piece on the other side, but that's a loose piece. I call that stroganoff meat. I use it for stir fries. I use it for stroganoff. Boneless chicken thigh, didn't pay $1.99 a pound. Now, I showed you that one and explained as I went, but let me take it real quick and show you. Just that fast. There's that little piece again. Let's call that stroganoff meat. The key to a lot of this, the key to everything is a sharp knife. Remember, more people are cut by a dull knife in a kitchen than by a sharp knife. Now that's a piece of gristle. We know it's a piece of gristle. We don't want that piece of gristle. Dogs will eat it. There we are. So, we have deboned, we have taken the meat off or deboned this chicken. But wait, there's more. Like Phil Swift would say. Now, there's more because you've got a couple of spots. You've got actually 4 spots where you've got good stroganoff meat. One was right here, just behind the neck. I grabbed that and pinched. Now let me do it again on this side and show you. Right behind the neck, grabbed right here and pinched. You can see the meat when you're cleaning the chicken. Pinch, come right down. You don't want that. That's kind of gooey, sticky stuff. Now also right here is, I guess you'd call it the shoulder blade. That's a real tender, nice piece of meat right there. Go down and get that. Now, if that's all you do, in terms of removing meat from the carcass, you've done more than most people. However, you can go along here and get, and if you got, you know, like 3 or 4 chickens, you certainly can go along here and get fancy and get some of this, you know, these little things, they don't look like much, but they do add up. In this case, we're not going to do it. So let me take these and put them in the stock pot. I've already got my huge stock pot on the stove, heating up to start making the soup broth, and I'll come back and finish the video. Alright, so I got the meat back out of the cooler because I wanted to show you. Let's see how many meals we got off of this bird. Now, when I picked him up, he was probably just under 5 pounds, and he was 5 to 6 months old. So, meals for 2 is what we're going to count here. The breasts are 1 meal. Yes, that's enough. The legs and the thighs, which the thighs are boneless, and I showed you why, but now you can cut them up and do whatever you want with them. But the legs and the thighs is another meal, so that's 2 meals. Now, 2 little tenderloins, I would say for me, I would need 5 of them, so that's 10. Oh, we got about a... let's call it a quarter meal here, just for this easy. So there's a quarter. So we're 2 1/4. We have my my wishbone and my little bits of stroganoff meat. Another quarter. So now we're up to 2 1/2. These 2, well, they're probably going to be a quarter meal there. So we're 2 3/4, right? 2 3/4? 2 3/4, and that carcass, I know from experience, is going to make me, for Debbie and I, it's going to make us just enough broth for 1 meal. So we got 3 1/4 meals? 3 1/4 meals off of that chicken. If it were a bigger chicken, we'd get a little more, and I'd cut it just a touch differently, which I would show you if I had a bigger one, but I don't, and we need to end this video. So, I hope that gave you a little bit of an insight into how I cut up a chicken, how I process my own chickens here. More importantly, if you can get them when they're running them as a loss leader in the grocery store, I don't recommend commercial chickens, grow your own if possible, but you get the loss leaders in the store down around 49, 59 cents a pound, which they do sometimes. Now you know how I cut them up to get the most value out of them. And the skins on them, if you want to peel the skin off, use that for your dog food. Remember, I still have some dog food in here. That'll feed 2 dogs. So anyway, that is that, and until the next video, which is going to be my vlog finished up. This will go up before the vlog. Thank you for dropping by. If you're new and you hung in here till the end, boy, you got some patience, and thank you. Check out the other videos. Subscribe if you want to. Notice I'm not monetized. I don't get anything from it. I'm offering it to you. I'm trying to get you to gain something from subscribing to my channel and watching our journey into sustainability. So with that, it's Robert Earl out here at the Eco Ranch in Far West Texas. See you later.